Hey, man, did you hit that? Come on, man, did you hit camera 2?
I sure did.
Come on, bro.
Man, camera 2 is a new addition to the family.
Come on, man. Boom. Man, why don't y'all clean up, man?
Nobody cleaned up. You clean up.
Clean this doggone, man. Clean this radio station up, man.
That's what we got you for.
Hey, man. 10-4, bro. 10-4. 10-4 to the Sorry Pittsburgh Steelers. 10-4. To the microphone. Is the microphone?
Why you got food? Why you got food?
10-4 to the Sorry Pittsburgh Steelers.
Why you got food?
10-4 to the... I knew it, man. I knew this was going to be one of them shows, man. I knew it, man. When I came in, when I woke up this morning, I said, oh, man, this going to be one of them shows, man. This thing all crackling, bro. Well, we get some new headphones, man.
You gonna do headphones? You stop
When
yelling.
is Christmas coming, man?
You just stop yelling.
Man, I don't know. Why the microphone ain't on, bro?
Man, you done lost your mind. You heard that?
Bro, I don't hit the thing. Man, this thing crackling like some bacon in here, man. When you go, this gonna be one of them shows, baby. Buckle up. Hey, boy. Let me see, man. Hey, I got something for you, man. Man. Turn that thing up, man. Why you being so stingy with it, man?
You want that?
Yeah.
You want
Why
that?
you being so stingy? Why you
Why
being so stingy with it? Why you being so stingy with it, man? You don't know nothing about being stingy. Why you being so stingy with it, bro? The folk want to hear, man. They want to hear what's going on, man.
Look at big money. Big
You
money.
know what I'm saying, man? Look, man. Hey, man, look.
What you got?
When I come in here, man, make sure you clean up. If not,
Ain't nobody cleaning up nothing. Okay, you gonna pick that up when you leave.
throw this stuff out the way,
You
man.
gonna pick that
Look,
up?
man, and these pens, look, these your
Man, don't
pens?
pen on that floor.
These your pens?
No. Oh, your mic.
Hey, man,
Your mic,
hey.
Something happened to your mic.
Get in. Hey, man, we live. Hey.
Something happened to your mic. Your mic died.
Chop, bro.
Your mic died.
Hey, bro, chill out.
Chop. Your mic
Chill
died.
out, man. Chill out.
Your mic died.
Good evening. This is your host, Joaquin Thompson, coming to you live from Lil Burn. We're going to jump right in, man. It's from Lil Burn, man. Lil Burn. Right outside of Atlanta, man. Just keep it right there. We right outside of Atlanta, right down by...
Stone Mountain.
Oh, man, don't say it, man. Don't say it, bro. Don't say it, man. Because if you say that, man, people get... Man, don't say it.
They get itchy.
That boy, they'll come down off of that Brock. I got it, boy. But anyway, man, this is what we do. This is for, hey, man, we got a great, man, the audience is bubbling, bro, already. Man, anyway, this show, we got a lot of people maybe joining for the first time. So for anybody joining for the first time, this show is about personal finance. And when I do each and every week, 117 weeks, God, 117 weeks. And the show is about personal finance from a spiritual perspective. We don't do religion on the Daily Bread show. We don't do, let me just say it 2 more times just so people can get it. We don't do religion on the Daily Bread show. The show is about personal finance, but we do it from a spiritual perspective. We only believe in one thing, and that's God. So you can use whatever name you want to use, Jehovah, the Redeemer, Buddha, what else you want to, Allah, the great I am. I like I am. Oh, man, wait a minute, man.
904.
That's what I'm talking about. Good evening, this is Joaquin Thompson with the Daily Bread Radio Show. What's your name and where you calling from?
They hung up.
Oh, they hung up, man. Man, you got to learn how to work that machine, man.
Yeah,
That is some feedback I've been getting, man. People been telling me, man, it's 10 to 15 people calling in every week.
Yeah, what it is?
And they said, man, every time they call in, man, they can't get through.
They told you that?
They told me, man.
Yeah,
they told me they can't get through.
Look, I don't care who tells
Look, man, look. So, look, man. I don't know if I'm about to call a union, but, man, you got to put them pork chops up, man. You beat them, man. You want a show, man?
Nope.
Do you want a show?
No, sir. No.
Man, I be checking out this. I be checking out your show, man. Hey, let me ask y'all something. If a bacon sandwich have lettuce on it, is it still a bacon sandwich? Are y'all calling into the radio show and let me know it? I be like, man,
That's a good
man,
one.
say something good, man. Don't steal it. I know y'all be on there. It'll be on in the morning, man. But great week. Huh?
Is Grits groceries?
Hey, man, this is a gospel show, man. I'm almost something.
Go ahead.
Something almost slipped out, man. But this is a spiritually based show, so we're not gonna talk about that, man. We got exciting. I mean, it's just 117 episodes. That speaks for itself, man. Just enough said. A lot of stuff going on in the news. Super glad, man, that a lot of, first of all, definitely praying for the people in the Bahamas. Because that was just, man, from what I seen and the footage and, listening to the people, man, that's devastating, right? That's devastating to have everything snatched from you. And the sad part is, it's really, the storm is the sad part, but the part that's even worse is the stuff that you have to do after the storm. You know what I'm saying? It's like, can you imagine, like, yesterday, you come home, everything normal, or you're getting ready for the storm, and then you come back the next day and, like, everything gone.
Devastation.
Everything. No clothes, no refrigerator, no nothing. Just you, the spouse, the kids, the pet. It's like no dog food, no cat food, so your whole world is just, oh man. So I'm definitely, keeping them in our thoughts and prayers, man, because they're gonna need that resilience, they're gonna need that reliance on God, and they're gonna need just the perseverance, and
The stuff that we take for granted every day, they no longer.
oh, see, man, you can't be reading my. Listen, man.
Oh, you gonna go?
Bruh, this is an Emmy award-winning show, man. You can't just be. You just can't. You can't just jump in and take my stuff like.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm stepping back there, brother. I'm stepping back. Go ahead.
man, how you just? I said Emmy. This is an Emmy.
Go ahead.
Emmy.
Go ahead.
I didn't say. Well, I said Emmy award-winning.
Emmy.
Emmy award-winning show,
You said
man.
Emmy.
And you just. I said what?
Emmett.
No, I said Emmy, bro. I'm not from no. Where you from?
I would never tell you.
I'm not from there, man. I know how to listen, man. I know how to enunciate,
Okay. Ooh, one of them big words.
right? I know how to enunciate when I need to.
There you go.
So don't get outside of yourself,
Think that you don't.
right?
There you go.
Thinking that I don't, man. I have an extremely high vocabulary.
Yeah.
Man, I'm not fooling with you today, man. But yeah, man, it's just so that was one I wanted to I wanted to keep them in our thoughts and our prayers, man, and not let that be cliche. But seriously, man, when we close our eyes at night or when we wake up in the morning, man, just if nothing else, give them a thought and just think about the people down in the Bahamas. Second thing, man, when you talk about being grateful, super grateful for the state of Florida dodging the bullet, man. We got a lot of rain, this, that, and other, man. I was so happy and I was hoping that tracker stayed true, because one thing about Mother Nature, you can always, bob and weave, and I was like, man, I hope it don't make landfall in Florida, man, because a lot of people done forgot about it, but that was just 2 years ago. We was dealing with, I guess that was what, Irma? I get all the names mixed up, but the one that tore the Keys up. So we just really getting back on our feet, man. So, I was really hoping that it didn't make landfall in Florida. So I'm really appreciative that it went down like that, man. And I'm just grateful from that standpoint.
Yes.
Grateful. And since you brought it up, and that was one of the topics that I had, it's a good segue and just to being grateful, right? So, and I'll speak on that, because one thing about me, man, I'm not going to be a hypocrite, be hypocritical. We talk about a lot of stuff on the Daily Bread Show, but one of the things that I always like to have is an attitude of gratitude, and not being cliche, but just thinking like when something devastating happened to you, even financially, because that's what the show's about. So this week week, I had something devastatingly financially happen to me, right? So when it initially happened, I was like, oh, God, oh, you know how you get, rolling around on the ground and acting crazy. But it's like, you know what I'm saying? When something devastating financially hits you, man, it's like, you know how you be leaning over the kitchen? Everybody's done this. Like you leaning over something in the kitchen, and for that split second, because you rushing, you forget you up under the cabinet, and you lift up quick, and it just like, and you hit that point of the cabinet, just boom, like, oh. So for a minute, man, I was like that. I was like devastated. I was like, oh, this is so, oh. Man, I've been trying to do right, man, and I'm talking to the man upstairs, and he's looking up. I'm like, ah. But it's just a test. So we don't never want to be tested, but we're gonna be tested.
Exactly.
But in rather short order, right? It was, man, probably 15 minutes late. I said, you know what? Bet, right? I'm not tripping about that because, and I'm gonna talk about this tonight. That's gonna lead us into today's topic. Because gratitude to me is, just to keep things in perspective, right? Gratitude is like, if you lost it, like you have a hand, but if you lost a finger, that would be devastating, right? If you lost, like, something happened, had an accident, the saw, whatever, or maybe you just lost a fingertip, even to just get the tip of your finger cut off, initially it would be traumatizing, right? Like, oh, you know what I'm saying? But you didn't lose your hand, right? Or you didn't lose your arm, or you didn't lose, the feeling in your upper body, or you didn't have a spinal. I mean, people use that and say, it could always be worse. Yeah, it could be. But if you had that type of mindset to say, you know what, I'm good, I'll take it, right? And that's the whole thing, man. Don't, in a financial world, and if you play this game the way it's supposed to be played, and if you play this game often, you're going to have a financial issue from time to time. I don't care how good you play the game. Even the big boys, right? Even the big boys, people you look up, oh, he's a millionaire. Oh, he's a billionaire. Oh, he's, okay. But guess what? They dealing with stuff too, right? It's top to bottom. So the whole thing is you got to build up that resiliency, financial resiliency.
Come on.
So that way when something comes on your path, it's like, bam, you hit your head, and you know how you hit your head and that water coming out, you're like, God.
Are you saying you're crying?
Crying?
Are you saying you're crying?
Bruh. Bro, I was about to say, man, look, man. Man, you gotta. I'm not, man, look, man, I'm trying to do a good show. I'm trying to do a good show, man. I'm not trying to, man, look, man, I'm not trying to, man.
I hush, man.
Because I looked over there, man, I'm about to say, man, see, hey, man. I got a big head, but, man, you hit your head.
Say the house will leave?
Your head a little bigger than my head. So when you hit your head, it might not. It may not even hurt you. I'm saying the average person's head.
So you were crying.
The average person, man, it would hurt you. But
So
I mean,
you were crying.
if I had a head like you, it probably.
So you were crying though.
I went, bro. I said, man, it made me tear up, man. But I'm saying, when you hit your head, what happened when you hit your head?
The house leave.
I know, man. You got to, what?
Look at it. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Come on, let me go get the last helmet. This is the last helmet. We'll see if we can.
Oh, I got you. Oh, yeah, I got you.
But, I mean, it's just, but you got to be, you got to build up some financial resilience. And, being grammatically correct, some people may say financial resiliency, right? But on the Daily Bread, each and every week, 117 weeks, I was thinking about that. I mean, every week I think about that number, the next number. But the thing about this week, and what that's bringing me into is the gratitude is bringing me into right in line with what we've been talking about the last 3 weeks. 2 weeks ago, we talked about credit. I gave you all the 5 components of credit. Now, what undergirds credit, the 5 components of credit, is your financial well-being we talked about return on investment last week, right? We talked about having an effective budget last week, right? And then we talked about currency. That's when it really got hot, when we talked about positive and negatives, having a surplus, having a deficit. All of that undergirds credit. So you need, it's like a melting pot. It's like a dish, right? So if you got good credit strong, but you got a deficit, got a problem. And again, keeping it transparent, the thing about when you teach topics, whatever you teach, some people teach how to weld, some people teach you, how to work out, some people teach you, whenever you get the opportunity to be the teacher, you will always learn the most. Whenever you get the opportunity to be the teacher, right? You might be the trainer. I got a brother-in-law, he trained people how to drive the city bus. But being the trainer or being the teacher, guess who learned the most? You do. So I'm saying that to say, when I got off the show last week, I said, you know what? Even when you, the trainer, the teacher, the head of the class, sometimes the stuff that you teaching, you know how to do it, but it might have been a while since you've done it, right? And for me, just again, being transparent, I said, you know what? I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna redo. I already had one. I said I'm gonna go in and redo my budget, my interactive budget, and see if I have a surplus or a deficit. And when I first did some numbers. The crazy thing is when you start doing these budgets, and I'm telling you fact, right? Like the young people say, I'm telling you facts, right? You sit down and start doing the budget, guess what you'll start to do? Because you would do anything to make that deficit go away. You'll cheat yourself. Yeah, you'll start writing stuff down and be like, yeah, I think I only paid like $350 for that bill. No, it's $450 or it's $458. So I'm saying that to say, as I went through that process this week, I went and did a new one. The good thing is, what you want? Good news? You want the good news? I got good news, I got bad news. Which one you want first? You want bad news? Okay, bad news. Bad news is, the bad news is, it wasn't a deficit. So I say the bad news, because I was thinking, man, I hope I don't have no deficit. So I didn't have a deficit, but I guess the bad news to me was I had a surplus, but it wasn't a lot of surplus, right? But that's fine, right? That's fine, because here's the thing. If you do your budget correctly, right, you really should be able to live off of 70% of what you make. I said 70%, not 100% of what you make, or not even what you make, what you bring home, your net. 70%. And why is that? So I'm gonna put you all up on something.
Come on.
Right? You get paid $1. What should you be doing first? What's the first thing that you should do when you get paid $1? What's the very first thing you should do? What's the very first thing?
Put some back.
No, I'm here to give it to you. I'm telling you. You said do what? What's the first thing you do?
Take some and put some back.
Pay yourself first.
Yep. Put some back.
Right? So I'm gonna put this up here, man. I ain't gonna be lazy, I'm gonna stand up. This is the first thing. So first, pay yourself. Like this boy, man. Right? Pay yourself first. I put the first up first. I don't know why this thing all turned like that, man. Why you ain't got it? And you got to fix that camera, bro. Because that tape is going to come out crazy.
It ain't gonna come out crazy.
But that's the first thing. So that's 10%. So let me put this over here. I'm going to put it over here so you all can see what I mean by. So you start off with 100%, right? Because you got $1, you get paid $1. So the first thing is you pay yourself 10%. Why is that important? That's important because whenever you do any job, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're a wage to or a W-2 wage earner, you should always pay yourself first. Now, that don't always happen because most people, right? And I've been on both sides. I've been an entrepreneur. I've been a full-time entrepreneur where it was like, whatever we kill, we eat on this side. So I've been a full-time entrepreneur before, so I'm not telling you theory. I'm telling you some facts. And I've been a W-2 wage earner. I've been on both sides, and I've been in roles on both sides where I didn't pay myself first. What I did was I paid my bills, or tried to pay my bills, did that first, and then whatever was left, after I paid my bills, whatever I had left, then I tried to save out of that, and most times there's nothing left after that. So you don't do it that way. You got to pay yourself first. So that's 10%. Now after you pay yourself first, and these are laws. So let me back up. This is like gravity, right? So gravity is a law. Some people don't believe it. The law of attraction, that's a law. These are actual laws. So you have to do these things in order for you to reap the results of the law. So this is a law. Pay yourself first. Why? Because over time, if you pay yourself 10% of your income over time, just say a 10-year span, in 10 years you would have saved, right? You would have saved 100% of your salary, whatever it is. So if you make $30,000 in 10 years, you'll have $30,000. If you make 20, you'll have 20,000. If you make 100, you have 100,000. If you make $1 million, you have $1 million. But here's the thing though, most people don't do that. Most people don't operate that way. That's why we get into a financial trouble because we don't follow the law. This is the law, right? And you don't want to break the law. So the second thing that you do, so what's the next thing that you do? So you paid yourself first. What's next? The next 10% goes where? Where's it go?
Church.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Say it, bro.
Church.
Don't.
Church.
Listen, man.
Church.
10%, bro.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You tithing, right? You tithing. Now, some people, and this is a spiritual show, so this is just my belief. So you ain't got to believe me, right? You ain't got to call into the show, 678-381-1973. You ain't got to call into the show and be upset like, I ain't got to tithe. It don't mean nothing if I don't tithe. You ain't got to do that, right? But the thing about it is this. Why you moving all the way back there, man?
So when you stand up your head and go.
Head, boy. Man, we put your head on this.
Oh,
You doing them head jokes, man.
You
Listen,
wanna go back
man.
there? You want to go back there?
Nah, man, you
Mr.
don't.
Crier?
Trust me, you do not want to do no head jokes.
Mr.
man.
Crier?
Don't. Man, you gonna make me come over and do a craniotomy on you. Hey, I'm not gonna do no jokes, man. We doing a serious topic, man. But tithing. So people feel some type of way about tithing. I'm telling you, I'm being honest with you, right? Because they think, and again, this is mindset. They thinking like this has to do with the church, and this has to do with the minister. The minister is the minister. You walking into church like. Look, man, this happened to me recently. You walking up to the church, and your pastor's coming by, and he's got their brand new 19, and his brand new black charcoal Maybach with the screens, not the tinted windows, with the screens up, and he go passing by you while you walking up to the church, and your minister come passing by. No, he don't come. He come whispering by, whispering behind his Maybach, 2019 Maybach with his screens in there, and that triggers something in your mind, and you feel some type of way, like, you know what? I'm not doing that. I'm not giving them no more money. I'm not doing that. Wrong, bro. And sis, wrong. Wrong way. Don't even. See, the thing is, when you get your mind right, when you get your mind right, that won't even faze you, because whoever's in your pulpit, whoever you aspire, like, hey, that's my spiritual leader, he does this, that, and other. What he does, and this is one thing that I know for sure, I don't care who the minister of your church, who's the head of your congregation or your archdiocese or whatever, right? The person that is the provider is God.
Come on.
Your minister don't provide for you. That's God. When you need a healing, that's God. When you need protection, that's God. Right? When you get that promotion at your job, that ain't your minister. That's God. So we got to change our mindset and be like, you know what? And the way that it worked for me, and I used to be, again, this is a perfect show. I used to be like, man, I'm not, shoot, 10%, that would be, man, I mean, I had to put in $100 in church. Like, oh no, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna put these $20, and these $20 is big. But when I started to learn the law, and I started to understand, and God would speak to me, I was like, you know what? This is really how it goes. God said to me, and to me, this is my personal testimony. So I can't speak for you, but this is basically what he told me. He said, look, if I gave you $1,000, he said, if I give you $1,000, you can't give me 100. If I give you 1,000, you can't give me 100. And I was like, or if I gave you 50,000, you can't give me $5,000. I gave you 50. Then when I started thinking about it like that, I was like, wow. And I gave you children. I gave your children help. I gave your wife help. I gave you grace and mercy. I was like, ooh. I said, you know what? So now it's not about tithing, but it's about being obedient. So when I started doing that, I was like, whoa, put me into a whole nother mindset, a whole nother way of dealing with money, right? So then I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm good, right? So that was the second thing. And then the third thing, which is more specific, this one should go here. So we're going to put this in a different color, since we're going to talk about this for the remainder of the show. We're going to go here. 10% should go to savings. And you might be out there saying, oh, but you paid yourself first. So why you got to save too? Paying yourself first and saving, that's two different things. That's two different things. Paying yourself first, because everything that you pay yourself, it ain't gonna end up in a savings bucket. And if it does, great. That's even better. But data, I'm a huge data analyst, and the data that I'm analyzing, trust me, very few people even doing 10% into savings, let alone 20. So trust me when I say, you ain't gotta worry about this, right? But if you follow this, the remaining balance that you would have to pay bills and do whatever else you need to do is 70%, right? Because we did 10%, pay yourself first, 10% with the tithing, and then 10% with the savings. Now, the beauty of this formula is this. When you do it on a budget sheet, you get to see how much you save over the year. And when you do the budget the right way, you get to see how much you spent over a year. Now, a lot of people come to me and say, man, I need some help, blah, blah, blah. I tell them how much I charge, because I do financial coaching. That's one of the companies that I have, one of the, businesses that I run. I do financial coaching, right? I coach people, like Billy Tech, he a coach, I'm a coach, I'm a financial coach. So when I'm talking to people and I tell them how much I charge, sometimes they like, man, they can't wrap their head around that. But here's the thing that you have to take into consideration is this. When you learn how to do this consistently, and when I show you how to look at your budget over a year, it's some things that'll jump out at you in your budget that right now today, you're not really feeling it, you're not really thinking about it, because you don't think about it that way. And one of the things that always jumps out at me, and I always use this example, is cable. 125, right? Most people pay 125, 150. Some people pay 225 a month for cable. TV, Stars, Showtime, HBO. Did you see The Barbershop? Did you see such and such? He was on. Ghost did this. Atlanta Housewives did that, right? So I'm gonna give you a conservative number, $125, right? $125 over a year is how much? I'm gonna write this on the board so that way you can get with this. That's $1,500. So it's $125 a month, right? So we said $125 a month. And then in a year, it's $1,500 a year. And then I just told you about when you save something for 10 years. So guess what? When you pay for cable for 10 years, guess what that number turns into? Got to put our dollar sign on there. It's $15,000. Now, I said that's $15,000. Now y'all ain't making enough noise like I thought y'all would make, but this is something to think about. I'm 52, so I've had cable. I've had cable since what, 25, 26, somewhere up in there, 25, 26. So I've had cable or some type of service that I was paying for the last 25 years, right? Now, I said $15,000 every 10 years, so 15, that's 30, half of that. So we talking about $38,000 in TV, give or take. Now, the reason that's important is this. When you look at your budget, just to kind of go back to last week, when you look at your budget and you have a deficit, these are the type of things that you want to think about and figure out what's important to you. $125 a month to watch TV, or I can eliminate the $125 a month and use that money and do something else. And you might be saying, well, what would I? It's something else. You do realize you can go to, I would say Radio Shack, but I ain't seen Radio Shack. Where you go? Sears, Amazon. I know you can go to Amazon. If you look up TV antenna on Amazon, you can go on Amazon and buy you a TV antenna connected to your TV, whatever type of TV you got, smart TV, non-smart, whatever. And you can get something to watch. May not be what you want to watch, but you can get something that just kills some time where you just kind of, what I call vegging out, got off from work, just like, oh man, I just want to sit down and watch some TV for a little while. May not be Stars, may not be HBO, may not be, The Barbershop. It may not be all of that, The Shop, but it just be something for you to veg out. But that $125 a month could be going to something else, especially if you're not paying yourself first, tithing, or saving. If you're not doing these three, especially if you're not doing one of these three, then it's time to cut the cable. Just start there. And there's some other things that you could cut, but we don't like cutting back on things because we feel like we losing out on something. I said $15,000 in 10 years. Now I ain't even gonna do the one I would do the one with the cell phone, but that'll hurt you even. That'd be more hurtful. And I know we're not giving up the cell phones. Now it's become like, it's like you can't leave it. You turn around from work, you'll be late to work and get written up. If you realize you left your phone at home, you would turn around and go back and get it. And get written up at work. And you don't even need the phone at work. Now I can see if you need it for something that you do, but whole nother story. But let's talk about savings, because we talked about having a financial issue, like something coming to you that you weren't expecting, right? But here's the thing about savings. The importance of savings is you want to start to put things away when you don't need them. And most times the way that most people's minds work, they want to start to save when they need the money. Like when you really need something, now it's like, oh, I want to put something aside. No, you need to put that aside before you need it. And you need to keep putting it away consistently when you don't need it and not touch it. Just let it grow a little bit. Just like planting the seed, letting it grow a little bit. You can't pull it up. Like the little plant just start growing. Now you pulling it up, it's going to turn into a fruit tree. But not if you pull it up. If you pull it up and start using it before you let it get the roots in the ground, then you're not going, it's going to be traumatic.
Yes.
Financially traumatic, because when something comes onto your radar and you really need some money, and you had some money in savings, but then you turn around and took a trip with the money for the savings, and now here somebody come slap you with this big bill. Pop! Like, God, oh,
Say it ain't so.
it wouldn't be so bad, right? If you could take a little couple of branches off your tree, like, I wasn't planning for this, but it's better for you to take off a few branches and take care of what you need to take care of, as opposed to not having a tree at all, right? And letting that little bit of money turn into a catastrophe. The average person has less than one $1,500 financial issue in a year. I said less than one. Most people have less than one $1,500 issue. An issue that's gonna cost you that you weren't thinking about. I need $1,500. Now, if you don't have $1,500, what do you typically do? You're gonna charge it. Ooh, okay, now you're charging it. So when you start to charge it, what is that gonna do? That's gonna increase your utilization. When you increase your utilization, what is that gonna do? That's gonna bring your credit score down. So see, all of these things are tied together, but my charge on this show is for you to start learning how these things are not independent of each other, but they're all interconnected. When you start to think like that, as opposed to having $1,500, like, man, I didn't have this for that, but if this is gonna make that go away, bam, there you go. And I'm not even talking about extreme cases like incarceration but you can have an issue where it's not about being incarcerated, but you may need to pay a lawyer. You may have something came up. You might have been, driving without your seatbelt on, or you might have had, a little too much fun at the tailgate, jumped in the car and started driving, and they pulled you over. And then all of a sudden you're like, man, you didn't get a DUI, but you might have got a reckless driving ticket or something, right? And now you got to appear in court, and they saying, hey, I wouldn't advise you coming to court without an attorney. Even though it's not a big case, you're not going to go do no time. But if you come without an attorney, you may end up on probation. You may end up with something on your record. So now you're like, man, how much is the attorney? The attorney is $2,500. How much the court costs? $500.
Stop playing.
How much is to get my car out of impound? That's $400. So you can see, boom, 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 right? So now you at what? $3,200 or $3,000, right? 25 plus 4 is 29, plus another 32, just like $3,200. If you don't have access to $3,200, or if you're like, well, I just put it on my credit card, okay, but now you're using that. So you got to do what you got to do. I get it, because I've done that. So don't get me wrong from that. But you would be in a better position if you had it tucked away somewhere that you was like, you mad because you got to use it for that, but you're happy that you had it. You happy that you had it. And that's what the moral of the story is. That's what happened to me earlier this week. Somebody, they hit me with something I had this money for that. I wanted to do that, right? I've been saving and saving and saving. But again, this goes back to tithing, right? This goes back to that. Because God was like, I'm going to give you some mercy. It's going to be a hard lesson, but you thinking in your plan that this is for that. But guess what God did? God said, you know what? I'm going to make a provision for you where you start actively saving, but you thinking it's for that, but he's preparing you for this. Because he knows what you're going to need it for. So I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. That thing came, I was like, oh, shoot. But after I sat down and thought about it, I was like, you know what? If this is gonna make it go away, boom, 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 there you go. Keep it moving. Keep it moving, and I'll get it back. Or I'll make it up, or I'll do something. I'm still hurting by it. I mean, don't get that far. I'm crying now. You like me was like crying. I am crying. I did tear up. I think I probably did tear up on this one. I ain't hit my head either. But I still was like,
Didn't have to.
oh man, it ain't nothing like, well, coming to grips with that. It ain't nothing coming to grips with. You did what? Man, I'm tearing up now, man. I'm tearing up now. But yeah, so I mean, that's why I do this show. Because my goal is this. If I could get 1 million people to understand what I'm saying in this episode, 117 episodes, it's millions of people struggling right now with the top 3. I mean, millions of them. I don't pay myself first. I don't make enough. Okay. You don't make enough. Okay. I don't tithe. I ain't gotta get them. All right, cool. I ain't got no savings. All right. But then when you want or you need something, not when you want, because like Les Brown said, we buy what we want.
Yep.
We buy, if we want something, we buy it. We buy what we want, but we beg for what we need. We literally beg for what we need. You know, hope I get approved for this. I don't know how. Don't be hemming and hawing there. Go in there, like I said, man, go in there with some confidence. Here's my credit report. Here's my financial statement. Here's my personal financial statement. Here's everything I got. Here's my down payment. Here's some more. Here's some more. I got some other statements over here. Here we go. Let's ride. That sounds a lot better than what? Like, nah, man. My thing is like I want us to get to a point where we taking this thing serious like civil rights. Because really right now, economically, if you are at the table and you don't, how should I put this? If you at the table and you don't see yourself at the table, then that means you the entree. Okay? If you're at the table but you don't see yourself at the table, that means you're the entree. So when you look at America and you look at all the stuff that all of these different industries that are being driven by the black dollar, by our consumerism, right? Fashion, cars, alcohol, hair care products, food, travel, entertainment, everything. You hear everything being targeted to us, but what? Financial statements. When the last time you seen a commercial, right, aimed at African Americans from Merrill Lynch, from Goldman Sachs? Goldman Sachs comes on. Hi, we are really looking towards, you investing in our hedge fund. They don't even talk to us about hedge funds. They don't even talk to us about investing in the stock market. They don't even talk to us about none of that. They talk to us about food, right? They talk to us about music. They talk to us about travel, partying, having a good time, popping bottles. Nothing. Our kids, they taking advantage of our kids. Bro, they got an opioid crisis. Do you realize they taking people to court right now over the opioid crisis? Do you realize they're suing the manufacturers of opioids? They're suing. I'm talking about this suit is bigger than the tobacco suit. Did you hear anything like that during the crack epidemic?
Nothing.
They didn't sue. They didn't sue. Man, they was infusing that stuff into our communities.
You're thanking people.
So I'm saying my whole thing is like, man, it's time for us. We need to just wake up. Like, boom. Like I'm doing these 3, because if you do these 3 and you pay your 70 and you don't have net left, you may think you don't have net left, but you got plenty. Because what's going to happen is over time, that money is going to start to stack up. Now, it's funny how I have these different topics, and then I'll come up with a book of the week, right? But let me tell you all something. Everything that I talked about today, this is a classic. This is the book of the week. This, I mean, I got a library full of books, like a room just full of books. I mean, hundreds and hundreds. This, man, this is in the top 3. No, let me see, Bible, Law of Success. They top 3, top 4. And the reason, and this one is The Richest Man in Babylon. The Richest Man in Babylon. The reason this book is in there is because this book, it tells you not only how to get out of debt, not only does it tell you how to begin saving, not only does it tell you how to change your mindset, but it's simple reading. I mean, something that you could give to a kid and say, hey, read this book, and a kid could read this and be like, I get it. Like, I get it. I mean, it's so simple where he's saying, look, if you have 10 eggs, he said, listen, look, and I just turned right to it. He said, then Arcade turned to a humble man who had declared himself an egg merchant. If thou select one of thy baskets and put it into it each morning 10 eggs, and take out from it each evening 9 eggs, what will eventually happen? It will become in time overflowing. Who don't understand that? That's pretty basic, right?
Basic, yeah.
He said put in 10 eggs in the morning, right? And in the evening take out 9. What's gonna happen over time? That's 10%. That's the same thing's gonna happen with all your accounts, all your money. You put in 10, right? Take out 9, that's 10%. Over time, it's gonna overflow. A lot of people say, oh man, I would have more money if I was rich. He talks about that in here. He has a room full of people and said, okay, it's a room full of people. Everybody in here has a different profession. But let me ask you a question. All of you all make different money. Some make $1 million, some make 100,000, some make 50,000, some make 30. So everybody's salaries all over the place. He said, okay, I get that. He said, but let me ask you a question. Why all of you all, regardless of how much you make, still broke? That's in here. And that's something that we have, because a lot of times we think, if we make more money, if I just had more money, I'll be straight. No. Because that's something that's called Parkinsonian law. And what's Parkinsonian law? Parkinsonian law says this. You will let your expenses expand to the capacity of your income.
Yep.
Boom. You only get that on the Daily Bread Show, right? Parkinsonian law. So the book of the week. If you don't have this book, it says $9.99. You can probably get it on Amazon for about $4 or $5. Best $4 or $5 you will ever spend on a book. In this book, if you read it cover to cover and start to put into play the things that's in this book, it will change your life. It will literally, he talks about things like this. When you owe a person money, or you owe a business money, right? And you get to a point in your life where you say, you know what? I know I had, maybe went into collections, maybe I meant to give it back to you and I lost my job, I couldn't give it. He said the first step in mending a relationship is what? Pay that person back. Man, do you know how much that'll change something? Because I just told one of my clients recently, I was like, he was talking to me about something. I said, man, whatever you do, don't borrow that money from your family. Don't borrow that money from your family. Because it's good on the front end, because somebody's just trying to help you out of a bad situation. But when you get to a point where you can't repay that money, that will turn any relationship sour. And you don't want that in your family. So I was like, nah, you have to figure out another way to do that, right? That's one of my pet peeves. Don't borrow from family and no co-signing. Because if you co-sign, that's in the Bible. If you co-sign, you're really asking for trouble. So, take some time out and do some investing in yourself. And that's something else I want you all to sit down and really think about. Like, when you do your budget for the year, or you sit down and, You can look at last week's episode. I take you through step by step how to create an effective budget, right? When you go through and you create that budget, one of the things I want you to ask yourself, when you look at all of those liabilities, credit card, you got a car note, you got auto insurance, you got homeowners insurance, you got ballet, you got cheerleading, you even got a line item for the dog. The dog got to go to the vet. You go all the way down that line, right? You go down vertically and read through all the stuff that you got to pay, student loans and all this other stuff that we have, personal loan, and I got this, I got to get the uniform for that. When you go all the way down that line vertically, then when you start going horizontal and start looking at month over month how much you're paying, take some time out and ask yourself this question: how much of all of this am I investing?
Just got it free on Audible.
See, make sure you listen to it. Don't get it free and don't listen, man.
Tell them though. They
Get
didn't
them.
know that.
Hey, you can go to Audible. My producer just went to Audible. He said he picked the book up. He got it for free. So I don't know if he had a credit, because I know I got Audible.
Mm-hmm.
They give you a free credit, but you can't beat that. This is classic. Richest Man in Babylon. Oh, that changed everything. This one little book for me. I was riding on the train. It took me from riding on the train to. It worked some things out for me. Just this book, but when you go down that list vertically and you start going horizontal, looking at stuff that you're paying month in and month out, just take a deep breath. This is what I want you all to do. Take a deep breath. Look at that document and see how much money are you investing in you. Like, do you have a coach? Do you have a financial planner? Do you have a conference? Do you have a seminar? Something that's going to help you improve your financial well-being. If the answer is zero or no, I don't have nothing, you need to invest in yourself too. Because things that you invest in, right? Things that you invest in, they create value. And if you want to get better at something, you have to invest in it. You have to invest in it. You have to invest in it. And it's for you. It's your investment. So again, that's a mindset. Don't think that the person that's teaching you this skill or this person who's showing you how to do this, they get rich, they this. No, you sit down and you do the math, and like we talk about return on investment all the time. I'm gonna give you a perfect example. If somebody told me, I'm gonna show you how to make an extra $1,000 a year, right? And it's gonna cost you $1,000. I'm gonna show you how to make $1,000 a year, but it's gonna cost you $1,000 for the class. I'm in. Like I don't need to look at the whole.
You ain't lost nothing.
No, because the thing about it is, when you make an investment, you have to think. Investing is a long game. Mm-hmm. Investing is not like popcorn, like pop. Investing is a long game, and the people who play it the best, i.e., Warren Buffett, right? Warren Buffett been doing this 60 years, 70 years. He like almost 90 years old. He's like 89 or some crazy number, right? He don't buy a company this year and then next year sell it. He buy a company and he gonna keep that company from now on, because the company's just gonna keep throwing off money. So we got to get into the same mindset. Yeah, it cost me $1,000, but so what? I made $1,000 this year. I'm gonna make $1,000 next year. I'm gonna make $1,000 next year, and it's gonna help me avoid losing $1,000. So it's not just gaining, it's gonna help me, like, man, don't do that, because if you do that, that's gonna cost you. They're gonna send you a fine. So even in this financial catastrophe that I ran into this week, even though it was a financial, you know what I'm saying, like, oh my goodness, I learned something. I learned some more key things that I wouldn't have learned had I not having to deal with it. And that's the other thing that we got to get used to, is just deal with it. Whatever it is, don't put it off. I don't want to deal with that. Deal with it. Because once you deal with it, then you're going to learn something. But if you put it off, I'll deal with that later. I won't open the mail. Deal with it. Because when you deal with it, you will learn something. Mm-hmm. You will learn something that will save you time, effort, energy, money in the future. Right? We got to change our mindset. This It starts up top. That's one of my next series that I'm doing. It starts up top. I don't care what it is. If you think you the whatever, it start up top. All of it start up top. Your belief, all of it start up top. Whatever you achieve, don't achieve, start up top. Once you get below eye level, it ain't nothing. What's below your eyes that's gonna make it happen for you? Your hands, your heart, what? Your feet. Start up top. You got to get up top right. So once you get up top right, everything below your eyes down, everything below your eyes down is gonna do what up top say. So you got to get up top right. So that's what savings is about. I know we talked about a lot of stuff. If you need to go back and look at this episode, I would strongly encourage you to do that because this is a different world. We're doing some different things. And if you're not paying attention, if you're at the table and you don't see yourself, you are the entree. That means people are they're literally waiting on you to make all of these mistakes, right? Pay all this interest. While you paying interest, somebody's accumulating that. They're making money. All of these financial missteps that you make, somebody else is benefiting from that. So at some point, you got to draw a line and like, bruh, that's it. Y'all not getting me no more on this. Like 25% and 40% and 32%. Like, nah, I'm saving, I'm tithing, I'm paying myself first. Because once you start doing that, that's his habit. You want to create these habits over time. So if you start to create habits with little money, you'll be able to do it with big money. Because that's a mindset. You start getting big money or bigger money and you already tithing, but your relationship was with God. So now when he brings you $1 million, you got to be strong enough to, you was tithing with, 50,000, but now he done hit you. You've been trying to hit it big. Now the show done took off. We on all the networks. We on BET. You think if he gave me a $20 million check, you don't think I have a problem with giving him $2 million? If he gave me $20 million, you think I have a problem giving him $2 million?
No.
He ain't going to no church. I might give that to the Boys and Girls Club. But the fact is, you got to give it away. That's a law. Give it away. You got a problem with the church? I'm sure it's a shelter or something right down the street from you. Bunch of people in need. That's just that's an extension of God's hand being a blessing through you.
Go downtown Atlanta or any major city.
Oh man, the homeless rate in Atlanta is getting, it started like a New York or DC, LA. I was just at an event yesterday with one of the police chiefs, and he was like, look, the homeless condition, the number of homeless people in Atlanta is growing, exponentially. And the lady asked the question, like, why is it starting to be so many homeless people? The guy was like, financial times. This is what he said. This is the police chief saying this. Financial times, people struggling, people losing things. So a lot of people may not be homeless right now, but I know for a fact, because I read data. I don't listen to what people saying. I read data, and the data says, yes, people are struggling. People are struggling. Just do the math. So, like I said, my charge, come on, give you all some stuff that you can use, give you all some stuff that you can replay, give you some stuff that you can share with your kids and your kids' kids. And I'm going to end with that. One of my clients this week, I was talking to him. He said, man, I don't want this just for me. He said, I got an 18-year-old son and a 15-year-old daughter. He said, I want you to be able to, I want to be able to teach my kids this. And right now, with what I know, I can't teach them this. So I'm like, is that worth it? I'm like, all day. So make sure y'all go out, Richest Man in Babylon, check that out. Make sure you're doing these 3 things. Pay yourself first. It's real easy. Pay yourself first, right? Tithe, if you got a problem with tithing, give it away, right? Just give it to a charity, give it to nonprofit somebody. Give 10% of whatever you make, give that away. And then the third 10%, get you some savings. Get you some savings, because it's not like you needing something and you don't have nothing but dust or lint in your pocket. That's a problem. So check that out, savings. Savings goes right along with the things that we've been talking about this month, right? Or over the last 4 weeks. We talked about credit and the 5 components of credit. We've talked about return on investment. We've talked about budgets. Now we're talking about savings. So the only thing left is for us to talk about debt. Look at that. See, this is my cue now. Now you know. Now this is all here, man. You gonna start my show late. Now you gonna.
I started
Now
late.
you gonna. Yeah, you started late. You.
I don't care who
You,
tells
boy. I ain't gonna call you out your name. I ain't gonna call you out your name, man. Hey, man, what my? Hey, man, hey. Come on, got